on now. And I alluded earlier to some strikes that have been launched overnight, and there are reports that Russia has launched another deadly strike on Kyiv, wounding at least 11 people. Missiles and drones slammed into several districts, setting buildings and garages on fire. Blasts rang out overnight as air defences lit up the sky. Authorities have warned of ballistic missile threats and urged residents to stay in shelters. Kyiv officials asked citizens not to post images online. The escalation comes as US and Russian diplomats prepare to meet on the sidelines of ASEAN talks in Malaysia. Well, Professor Nagy, we have had reports from Ukraine that there have now been 2 deaths reported. This, of course, as mentioned earlier, coming after a record number of drone strikes. And it's not just Kyiv. I want to inform our audience, it's not just Kyiv that has been struck. Ukraine saying other areas in the country also being hit as well. What's the significance, Professor Nagy, of this intensifying nature of Russian strikes day after day, seemingly records being broken with the number of projectiles that have been fired? This, of course, reported by Ukraine.
So I think that part of this is retaliatory, and part of this is the strategic tactics towards negotiating with the United States and Ukraine in general. When I say it's part of retaliatory, remember back in June or May last month, May, the Ukrainians were successful in an audacious attack across Russia, hitting many of their long-distance strategic bombers, causing tremendous damage to Russia's ability to maintain its strategic bombing capabilities. And in that sense, I think that there's a retaliatory side demonstrating that Russia is fully capable of continuing to its attacks on Ukraine. At the strategic level, the Russians understand that they are, have an advantage in terms of quantity, and they're moving slowly on the front, whether it's centimeter by centimeter or more, and they're in a stronger position because of absolute numbers compared to the Ukrainians. But they want to maximize their position, their negotiating position, and weaken the resolve of the Ukrainians. And they're doing this by continuing to bomb. And they're hoping that this will put them in a maximalist position towards the United States and Ukraine in the negotiating structure, where they may be able to convince the Americans to convince the Ukrainians that there's no winning the war with Russia. There's only more death and destruction for the Ukrainians. And whether this is true or not, that's a different story. But this is the approach that the Russians will have, is to cause as much chaos and death and mayhem to try to create the conditions where the Ukrainians and the United States will say no. No more deaths, no more mayhem. We want to try and freeze the conflict or stop the conflict as soon as possible.
Yes, let's now look at that diplomacy that we briefly spoke about there. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio